Let's talk about JoyNews investigations. We have uncovered how some licensed buying companies and farmer society groups illegally rent their certification license for as high as $1 million Ghana cedis to wealthy businesses. Under the Cocoa Sustainability Initiative, farmers are paid an extra premium for growing certified cocoa. However, in many cocoa growing areas across Ghana, there is a blatant abuse of the system, giving rise to a situation where some LBC do not pay the appropriate premium and also pass regular cocoa as certified. These underhand dealings make the farmer poorer, defeating the purpose of the Cocoa Sustainability Program. There is more in our latest Hotline documentary, Robbing the Poor, by investigative journalist Kwete Nate.
It's another shady tale of exploitation of cocoa farmers.
Hiano kayapa hiano ba. Ni akawse omo edi ye premium no abreye. Ba pemine ye yan farm breye.
It's a web of shady deals involving officials of certification bodies, licensed cocoa companies, and cocoa interest groups.
Everything that we need to do to get a certificate is me.
We will take you on a journey to expose the crooks who are compromising the integrity of the International Cocoa Sustainability Program.
The actual work that we are going to do will just be like 10%, 90% I will forge it.
It may appear as a simple case of poor implementation of the cocoa certification program. However, this is a complex, dubious, deliberate practice of buying and bagging conventional cocoa as certified cocoa. In this edition of Hotline, my colleague Kwete Nate digs into the rot that has characterized the cocoa certification program. He goes in search of hard evidence in major cocoa growing areas in the Ashanti, Western, Eastern, and Central regions, and shows how officials of certification bodies act as auditors and shadow staff to aid in the acquisition of certificates and $1 million murky deals with key stakeholders in the cocoa sector, facilitating the entire process.
The cocoa sustainability programs are meant to improve on the livelihoods of the cocoa farmers. They are also meant to address the challenges we face in the supply chain, and then also to address the consumption and the processing aspect of it.
In the early 2000s, key players in the cocoa sector and consumers were concerned about the future of cocoa production. These concerns were about poor living standards of cocoa growers, the use of chemicals for cultivation of cocoa, and child labor on the farms. The Cocoa Sustainability Program was introduced so that cocoa farmers will be paid a price premium for producing high-grade cocoa under internationally approved certification standards. However, some licensed buying companies and farmer societies have compromised the entire process. Today, conventional cocoa is sold as high-grade certified cocoa. Wealthy individuals and organizations can also buy or rent the licenses of other cocoa buying companies. And then there is a whimsical, chaotic, and unregulated payment of premiums where cocoa farmers are paid a pittance for the certified cocoa. That's why we go undercover to expose those crooks robbing the poor.
Head of our agricultural desk, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, is joining me via Zoom. Hello, Joseph. Joseph, let's start with the Sustainability Cocoa Program. How really does it work?
So, just by breaking it down, the number of such sustainability programs within the cocoa sector that are running, they mainly run more like as corporate social responsibility initiatives that a lot of the cocoa sector players have running. So the big cocoa processing companies have such sustainability schemes running. The big license buying companies have sustainability schemes running. Now, the whole idea of certification sits in as one bit of it that seeks to help sustain the cocoa sector better. It's aimed at what they describe as trying to create thriving cocoa communities, because the idea is that the cocoa industry should be able to sustain itself for years to come, so that in the next 100, 200, 500 years, the communities can still grow cocoa and produce cocoa. Now, the certification scheme, as it works within the entire sustainability scheme, it's a structure where there are all these bodies that are set up as licensing entities. So we have Rainforest Alliance, which has come up repeatedly in the documentary that we had just running. Before that, there used to be another firm called UTS, which merged with Rainforest Alliance. There are a number of them. Conservation Alliance, which focuses on issues of deforestation and all. There is Fair Trade, which is also another certification scheme. So the way they work is this, that when, for example, you pick a bar of chocolate on the market in Europe or here in Ghana, and you have, let's say, a Rainforest Alliance certification on it, or a Fair Trade certification on it, the point is that they've defined standards by which you should produce the cocoa. And the standards include a lot of things. It includes avoiding deforestation as you are producing the cocoa. It includes avoiding the use of child labor even as you are producing the cocoa. It includes having situations where you are applying the right amount of pesticides and you are not overusing pesticides. So anyone who is buying any such cocoa product with such certification on it is firm in the mind that all the standards were met, even in producing the chocolate, or for that matter, the cocoa. And eventually, then consumers pay higher prices for this. And the idea is that the money resulting from this is plowed back into the cocoa communities, either to support the cocoa farmers as extra premium for each kilogram of cocoa that they produce, or then the money goes into things like providing water, providing solar panels, providing school infrastructure in the communities in question. And so that's essentially how it works. It's just like having, let's say, a Ghana Standard Board certification on your sachet water, which then says that the water has been produced using the very appropriate standards, except that in this case, this is very much private sector driven and not exactly government focused.
And what it means is that people are taking advantage of this scheme and making money. Explain to us how this has been abused in this documentary that Kwete Nate has put together, and why it inevitably makes the farmer poor.
So, first of all, it's a very good job that Kwete Nate has done there, going behind the scenes and uncovering some of the alleged fraudulent activities as they unfold in some of these cocoa communities. Now, there are two spheres of it. The first part has to do with situations where the forging is happening, and then we have circumstances where cocoa which hasn't gone through the right certification is being exported as certified cocoa, and additional premium is being paid by the consumers for it. So it's not all of Ghana's cocoa that is certified. And the way the certification scheme works is that, particularly for the cocoa industry, it mainly works with cocoa farmer groups, where they sign on to it. They'll go through a certain training on how they are supposed to produce their cocoa and all. Now, with the forging of some of these certifications and uncertified cocoa being sold as certified cocoa, the chances are that very soon the consumers who are paying the higher prices because they are convinced that that particular product of cocoa was produced using the appropriate standards will lose confidence in the said scheme, because then they'll be clear in their minds that the embossment showing that the cocoa is certified actually means nothing, and they may be unwilling to pay the higher prices for it. And what that means is that these premiums that farmers are likely to get going forward will be damaged to a certain extent. That's the first breath of it. But in the latter part of the documentary that Kwete Nate did, he pointed to a situation where even in some of the places where the premium scheme is working appropriately, the premium that's supposed to go back to the farmers is not being handed over to them as it should be in the various farming communities, because then we have the third parties who are supposed to help with the auditing, and even the leaders of the farmer groups, more like, dividing the money into two, paying portions of it to the cocoa farmer and them holding on to it. In one of the instances, the estimation was that when the premium comes in, the farmers are getting only about 25% of it, and then the rest are being more like stolen, in quotes, by other players within the scheme. Of course, that's a lot of cheating that shouldn't be happening. So in the documentary, at the very latter part, you heard from some of the cocoa farmers who are making the point that they've signed onto certification schemes, but they are not earning the additional premium from the said certification. Then it virtually discourages them from going through the process to allow them grow certified cocoa, and they want to go ahead and grow regular cocoa because, in fact, getting your cocoa certified requires a lot of investment because there are standards that you are supposed to meet before you can be part of a group that's able to sell out or export certified cocoa. And so this is something that should be looked at. If money is coming in and the farmers are getting only 25% of what is supposed to be the premium that they are earning, then of course it's more like cheating, it's more like fraud that the authority should be clamping down on. And obviously, a lot of the backstops with the said certification entities. A lot of them are foreign companies that have local partners. I'm sure when they are in their conference rooms abroad, they are convinced that the processes are happening as they ought to and that the farmers are benefiting. It calls for the need for increased supervision of the operations of those who are doing the work right here in Ghana so that the farmers don't get cheated in the end.
And I'm sure that this documentary will certainly catch the attention of these groups that you refer to. Joseph, thank you very much for that breakdown of what this is all really about. Joseph Opoku Gakpo is head of our Agric and Technology desk, helping us to understand. This is our latest documentary by investigative journalist Kwete Nate.